Hello and welcome to an all new episode of ThyGap podcast. This is a new Thursday and we've got a new episode. This is me being Brute and with me,
Is Bogus Noog?
Bogus Nook, why are you here?
Why indeed?
It's $1 million question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what allows you to be here?
Well, off the top of my head, bro, I think I've negotiated my way into this setup.
You are an abysmal.
Abysmal what?
You're an abysmal, that's all.
That's it.
That's it. It's a statement.
Wonderful.
Negotiation is a famous, world famous template of ThyGap. It's not easy.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about negotiation.
Mm.
Negotiation.
Yes.
Negotiation.
Whatever you say.
Hail Hitler. But no, our topic is negotiation today. It's not easy.
It is not
And
easy.
I'm sure a lot of people will agree with it. Nobody is a perfectionist when it comes to this particular art.
If they've ever paused to consider the topic or the subject, then yeah, they would have thought about it.
Yeah. And what we are going to cover, I think we are going to cover, it's not just a job interview negotiation. It's not
We'll
a
go
salary.
into context, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go into all that. But I don't want you to be here deep inside and also pretty vocally. But before we do all that bogus, let's go back to our award-winning socials.
Yes.
On Instagram, we are.
@_ThyGap.
Twitter and Vero, we are.
@ThyGap.
And if somebody is going to write a mail to us,
mindthygap@gmail.com.
perfection. Award-winning for a reason.
Yes.
So quickly, we have another surprise package
Oh,
in this episode. Bogus, the fact that you made that sound,
yeah.
means that even you are already surprised.
I'm shocked.
You're shocked.
Stunned.
You're abysmal.
Yeah.
It's a word I learned. Bogus, what is the surprise package?
Well, the surprise is that we have another shout out this episode as well.
Oh,
Slowly brewed English podcast listeners have started to write in,
being vocal.
learning from their Telugu compatriots.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And also, we've been plugging language. It's not easy. So a lot of people have been doing that.
Yeah.
Learning it a little.
When I say learning from their Telugu compatriots, still not as good,
Nope.
but they're picking up.
Yeah.
They're picking up the pace.
One step at a time, one punch at a time.
Yes. Our shout out this week goes to Amrut.
Amrut,
who's written into our email. So Amrut says, I find your English and Telugu podcast content very entertaining. And in fact, they seem to be improving week over week. The reading episode in the English podcast really made me want to develop the habit, even though I'm not a reader. So now if I will read or not is totally dependent on me. But you guys have definitely sparked a fire. So a huge shout out for that in brute style.
Amrut, it's a shout out to you. And thanks for writing to us. And we oblige your writing.
We are obliged.
We are obliged as well as we are accepting your writing.
Yes.
Acceptance is not easy again. Episode of
Check it out.
Check it out.
That's a plug just for you.
Just for you. And we have done it twice to you, so you should be really proud. Very few people get this honor of
Right.
ThyGap giving a shout out twice.
Yeah.
But also, what we want to say is,
It's a lazy way of getting two shout outs in one, like two birds with one stone.
we are the easiest.
They're very easy.
ThyGap is like dead easy.
Yeah.
We get into bedrooms on the first dates, like that easy. But Amrut, thanks a lot for writing.
Yep.
We are really glad that we could spark a fire in you. Whether you do it or not, like you said, is totally up to you. If you are happy with the imperfect personality of yours, continue not reading. But what we really want to do, how we really want to contribute, is not just by sparking a fire in you, but also putting a hole in your pocket.
And also, Amrit, unlike the Telugu podcast, which is all episodic,
Yeah.
the English podcast, you've mentioned reading, but we strongly encourage you to keep listening to all of the podcast episodes because there are a few dots that you have to connect as well. All of these topics are interconnected.
Yeah. It's a multiverse.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So stop writing nonsense and send us some money.
Yeah.
Amrut, you look like a rich guy. But anyways, that's the shout out. That's the end of the
That's
shout
the
out.
shout out.
We don't want to lose our voices on keep shouting out
Yep.
people's names for random reasons, unless it's making some sounds of moolah.
Yeah. And also, people say it's rude to keep shouting so much.
Yeah, it's shouting. It's not easy, bro.
It's not easy.
The upcoming episode.
Yeah.
So bogus. With that, we complete the rituals of the episode.
Yep.
The only ritual that we are waiting to do, but we are not getting to do, is the sponsored ritual, where we will
yes.
have to say, "This episode is sponsored by."
Oh, what a golden opportunity, bro.
It's an empty spot, guys. Come
Yeah,
on. Raise your hands. Reach out to us. Anyways, so let's jump into the episode. It's not easy negotiation.
Yes.
And like our template always suggests, we have to set the context. Bring all of our audience on the same page as we are.
Yeah.
So they get that feeling. See, our episode is not just about listening, bogus. It's about experiential listening.
Oh, yeah.
It's about experiencing the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Feeling it in their bones.
Exactly. While you're driving,
Yeah. While you're sitting in a train.
while you're cooking,
While you're in your bathroom.
while you're having all of these experiences.
In your most intimate moments, we want you to experience ThyGap.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So for that reason, bogus, set the context.
Guys, the context is...
Uh.
No. So, yeah, the context for this episode, negotiation, we want to get back, as we always do, bro. We want to get to the very core, the very essence of the word. And so when we say negotiation, we're talking about anytime you want something from another person,
Yep.
where you require their help or their collaboration or their support or their involvement, whatever it is. If you need something from another person, that is where negotiation comes in.
Absolutely true.
And you can think of multiple scenarios, multiple contexts for this. Purely business, purely transactional, romantic, intimate,
Friendship.
Stockholm syndrome,
Yeah.
any of these things.
Holocaust.
Yeah.
Name it.
Corporate workplace. So negotiation. Prison?
Yeah.
Big time.
place.
Big time.
Big place to use this.
If you've been in a hostel, prison is not, same difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stranded island, wherever you go.
Exactly. The same dynamics play out.
Absolutely.
So negotiation is really that important to our day-to-day life.
Right.
Negotiation is the way in which we work around obstacles to get our way in the end, basically. So when we talk about negotiation in this episode, you can actually apply it to all of these contexts, all of these scenarios that we mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think that should about do it for the
Set up
context
the
part.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great setting up, bogus. Off the bat, I want to ask you a question. What was the weirdest place you had to negotiate? Weirdest.
Oh, let me think. Weirdest.
Yeah. Like there was absolutely no need, or rather you thought it was just like a favor that you're asking, but it turned out to be this whole negotiation tricks that you had to play.
For sure, I have been in those situations, but right now nothing comes to mind. So, bro, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do.
Yours, go ahead.
Yeah. The weirdest place was this public toilet.
Okay. Which is topical, relevant for ThyGap, open.
Absolutely. Yes.
Subscribe and share.
And that's the Telugu ThyGap podcast.
Yeah.
So this was like actually pretty topical to how we do it in the Telugu podcast. I was traveling in a bus overnight to Bangalore, and there's this real emergency
Right.
in the middle of the way, and there is designated spots where the bus will stop. Right. So there's this real bad emergency, and I went straight up to the driver and I was like, "You really need to stop, bro." And that guy was like, "No chance.
Oh, this
I'm
reminds
already
me.
running late.
Yeah.
There's no chance I'm doing it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dude, are you kidding me? Why will I do it for fun and frolic? Like, it is a real fucking emergency. I need to stop."
Yeah.
And this guy was like, "No, it's coming up in about whatever 15 minutes or 30 minutes. I'm going to take a stop anyhow. Do it then." I'm like, "Are you freaking crazy? When it's real, it's real. Like this, you can't stop a marriage or your shit."
Yeah.
So this went on for about like 4-5 minutes where
Right.
I was just like explaining him why I need to take immediately. What was my medical condition?
Okay.
What was the background? Like the
Right.
whole bloody evening that I spent before getting onto the bus. And he's just asking me this random question like, why didn't you do it before? Like,
Right.
what stopped you? He was questioning me morally.
Right.
The whole thing turned out this negotiating debate of why I feel he should oblige me
Right.
and why he felt that I should hold on.
Yeah.
Right. And it so turned out that, one passenger who was not able to see because got heated up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can imagine, right?
Yes.
So this passenger just said like, dude, nobody fucking has a problem. Everybody is asleep. Just fucking stop the bus and let him do his job.
Exactly.
And he told it in such a stern voice. And the bus driver was like, if it gets delayed, it's not my responsibility. Tomorrow, everybody will wake up and like, oh, I got late to my work and this and that.
Oh, right.
And the guy was like, doesn't matter. I will speak to them. Mine is the last stop. Like he just told some random story.
Yeah.
And like, just fucking stop. But even before he did that, he just asked me one question, one or two. And I said one. And like, fucking stop. Dude. So that was the weirdest place. Can you imagine? There's a bus engine. You know how bus engines
Yeah,
are?
yeah.
Loud.
Yeah.
And there is this guy just like ramping through the highway.
Yeah.
And there's me dancing while I'm talking, trying to like jiggle and wiggle. So that was the weirdest time I had to sit and negotiate and use my like brains to like, how do I convince this guy?
Yeah. The jiggling and the wiggling was also part of the negotiation.
Yeah, that
tactic,
was,
you know.
it's a whole show.
Yeah.
So I was giving the whole show.
It's like the peacock has come and says,
It was literally like, I'm going to do it right now. And
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. Do
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
I was like, dude. I mean, the moment when we thought about this, I was holding back to the story for the longest time.
Right.
But that was the weirdest time I had to sit through a negotiation.
Oh, your story reminded me of my, or at least what I can remember now. The weirdest kind of negotiation session I had was in Tibet. There was a Chinese taxi driver that was trying to rip us off because he had a, in between the front seat driver and the front seat beside the driver, there's that
Pillar
storage
Right.
compartment, right?
Right.
Just in front of the gear rod.
Right.
You can place your wallet, etc., whatever. This guy, he had it glued.
Okay.
So it had already broken. He had it glued up, and you can see the glue line
Right.
where he put crazy glue and he tried to stick it.
Yeah.
So he was driving us from point A to point B. And once we reached point B, our destination, while getting out, one of the members of my group, he had a backpack. So while he was getting out, his backpack just brushed that compartment, that plastic box. And it fell.
Yeah.
So whatever glue he put up, right, it fell through.
Huh.
That's it. This Chinese guy now, the driver, he thought he could rip us off big time,
Right.
saying that we broke his cab. Okay, so imagine this in Tibet, which is China occupied now.
Right.
So you had this Chinese driver stop the car in the middle of the street road
Right.
just to cause a scene. He could have parked to the side. No, he stopped it in the middle of the street, full traffic, and he started getting out of the car and he started yelling and jumping like mad.
Right.
All of the passengers around us, they just wanted to, around me, like the group,
Yeah.
they wanted to escape the scene.
Right.
They did not want a scene, especially not in China,
Yeah.
with the language you can't
Risky,
understand,
yeah.
all that shit. And I was not giving in because I saw the whole thing,
Right.
and I saw it was glued, and I saw that this guy was trying to take undue advantage.
Right.
And he was Chinese.
Right. So it was given.
So,
It was off the bat.
being an Indian,
Yeah.
I did not want to let that go. So he tried to argue with us. We were not understanding his language. He was not understanding us.
Right.
Through sign language, I was trying to tell him,
Right.
you fucker, I've seen you. There's a glue mark right there.
Right.
You glued it up.
Yeah.
And now his back just hit and you expect us to pay a huge fine for that.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
And the more he was trying to yell and more animated he was getting, right?
Yeah.
The more calmer my face was getting.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell him, it's not happening. This is not happening. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Did you do the whole Chris Tucker thing? Can you read the English? Can you read my lips?
No, pretty much I was like, this is not happening in your dreams. This is not going to happen. Do whatever you want. You want to hop around like a mad guy? Do it. Then this guy understood, okay,
Get
this is
it out
not
of your
happening. I
system.
need to escalate. So he crosses the street, goes to the other side. He gets a cop.
Right.
Now seeing a Chinese policeman come, my group is even more like,
Agitated.
hey man, let's just go. We came here to do some shopping. We'll
Right.
just do our shopping and we'll push off. Whatever he's asking, let's just give it right. Anyways, we're combining. And I was like, nah. This is the principle of it.
Yeah.
If it was France, if it was Italy, maybe it would have been different. This is China.
The two times we feel patriotic.
Exactly.
India-Pakistan match and when we go to Tibet.
And the cop comes over and he's like coming into this fresh.
Right.
Right. So he's looking at an extremely agitated, animated taxi driver
Right.
who's jumping around like
Yeah.
it's his birthright. And my group is kind of like one step away. Like they
Yeah.
want to get away from there.
Right.
And I'm looking at this cop with the same kind of determination, saying, I showed the cop. He also doesn't understand, right? He's a
Obviously,
Chinese guy.
yeah.
So I showed him, look at the glue marks.
Right.
It was there. My friend's bag hit.
Yeah.
It fell. And this asshole now wants us to pay for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so the cop also understood. But he was kind of conflicted because I was not giving in. And that other guy was hopping mad.
Yeah.
And to top this, around us, that was Old City. So around us, there were Tibetan refugees.
Oh, when you said around, it was old city, I thought like there were Muslims also who are involved in this.
No. It was Tibet's, Lhasa's old city area. So they were Tibetan refugees.
Right.
And they were, I think, one Afghan guy.
Oh.
And then
Oh, so there were Muslims.
there were a couple
Pashtunis.
Bangladeshi guys.
Uh-huh.
Basically, when those people came around us,
Yeah.
they were the only traffic around. They came around us and they started asking us like, what's going on? Again, language difference.
Right.
But still, I was able to communicate to them. Look at this asshole. Look at what he's trying to do. He's trying to rip us off.
Yeah.
Full support we got
Yeah.
from the crowd because Tibetan refugees,
Yeah.
right? Again, they're also in the same equation.
Right.
So ultimately, the scene got so ugly that it got to a point where it was a stare off, like it was a staring contest. Like who's going to blink first?
Right.
The whole traffic is jammed.
Yeah.
There is a cop. There is a driver. Everyone's honking mad.
Yeah.
Like get the fuck off the road and all that.
Right.
So it was a staring contest. Like, who's going to blink first?
Right.
And I made it clear through my body language and my face that I can sleep here.
Yeah.
If you
I have nothing better to do.
I will lie down on the road.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I have all the time on my hands.
Yeah.
I'm not paying this guy the money he's saying. Once they saw that, right?
Right.
Then the cop also pulled this guy aside and he was like, hey man, let's just fucking get done with it. This traffic, I can't handle it and all that.
Yeah.
So again, this guy came back yelling and jumping and all that. But ultimately, I just took the 20 yen or whatever we had to pay him,
Yeah.
threw it on his seat and we walked away.
Yeah. So, we all have stories.
Yeah.
We all have weird stories of how we negotiated something for our advantage. And
Yeah.
oftentimes you realize that the more passionate you are,
Yep.
the better negotiator you get.
Well, I was going the opposite way.
It is.
You are true. You are right in the sense the more passionate you are.
Passion also on the downside makes you blind.
Yeah.
But I think you get into it much more higher in conviction.
That blind spot is what I was coming to actually.
Yeah,
Because,
definitely.
like our listeners may be wondering what is negotiation in that second story? Because it looks like just a roadside fight.
No, also it's because you told the story, you generally camouflage the actual point a lot.
So what is negotiation in that is when you have a complete breakdown of language,
Yeah.
when you have this guy hopping and yelling mad, generally what happens in a street fight is the other party tries to match that animation,
Yeah.
that excitement, and they try to again jump and hop like the other guy
Right.
to try and match it.
They mimic.
The mimicking technique.
Yeah.
Rather, you play a different game. You play a different game in the sense you stop jumping. The more he's jumping, the less you do.
Right.
The more angry and passionate and excited he is, the more upset he is, the more you make your face calm, you settle your voice because you understand that the other way, if you try to mimic him, now it could be anybody's game.
Right.
It could go any other way. Like the cop could decide that, okay, this guy is creating too much nuisance. I can just arrest him.
Yeah.
And also, if I were to have been as animated as him, I don't think I would have gotten the crowd on my side. All the local crowd that was there.
Yeah. At a base level, what I see is, when you don't give reasons to pin you down.
Right.
So you keep holding your bargaining chips with you.
Exactly.
That is really important. That can be done in like 10,000 different ways of how you hold on to the bargaining power
Yes.
more than the other party.
Yes.
Right?
And the chip in this case was the fact that he had glued that part.
No, the chip in this case, I feel, was the fact that you never showed that you got affected by this.
Yeah.
That was the biggest chip. See, because how I look at is, like they said, the staring contest, right?
Yeah.
The one who blinks first. If you show that at some level that I have all the time to do this talk,
Right.
I'm in no hurry.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but the other party suddenly starts getting agitated.
Exactly.
I don't know why that is the case. The calmer one party gets, the more agitated the other party gets. It's like, the bully technique also. Like if you show that I'm not affected by somebody bullying me,
They get even more.
yeah, they get even more frustrated and they start trying so hard
Yeah.
that they set themselves up for failure.
Yeah. They might stumble into some
Right.
mistake.
Or
the other.
they make themselves look dumb. They throw a bad comment which doesn't land, or they overdo it or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was your bargaining chip, according to me, more than the whole
It was
gluing
multiple
part, yeah.
things. Like I was also, no matter how different the atmosphere got, no matter how escalated it was getting,
Yeah.
I was always bringing it back to that. The
Yeah,
fact
the-
that he was ripping us off.
Correct.
It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
You don't need to speak my language to understand that.
Yeah.
Anyone understands that.
Correct.
So I was coming back to that.
Right.
So anyways,
Enough of our personal stories, Bogus, about how it was really urgent for me to pee while I was traveling.
yeah.
How it was not so urgent for you to go out shopping.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
It is not easy, but it's also extremely important.
to stick to the topic that we decided
Yes, first
in
of
the
all,
beginning of the
stick to the
episode.
damn topic and stick to the damn template.
Yeah. It's not easy, guys. Like,
Yeah.
walk in our shoes for 5 steps.
Coming
Then you
back to
start
the
running.
template, bro.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I want to mention the etymology of this word.
Oh,
I
my
tried to
sweet
look
Lord.
it up. It's you're gonna love this.
I thought we were done with etymologies
No.
after the language episode.
You're gonna love this.
Okay.
So the dictionary meaning just says, working with someone to some goal, working around obstacles.
This is negotiation definition.
This is negotiation.
Who the
Like
fuck is writing this?
dictionary meaning, right? So working around obstacles to get to a goal, which
Got it.
yeah, it makes sense. But then I looked up at the actual etymology, which is the root words that make up this word from old language.
Greek, obviously, Latin.
It's broken up into neg
Uh-huh.
and the rest of it. Okay.
Oceation.
Forget the I searched for negotiate.
Okay. Oceate.
Whatever. Neg is not.
Uh-huh.
And the rest of it, easy.
Are you kidding me?
I told you, right? You would love this.
Oh, sweet Lord. Seriously.
Can you believe this? Like the root words that made up the word negotiate, not easy. It's not easy.
Guys, it's in the word.
It is in the word.
The first time that Bogus's habit of, making
Etymology.
us go through this nonsense of
Yeah.
when the word started, who bloody came up with it and all. For the first time, it has some meaning, bro.
No, not for the first time.
It's the first time. It's the first time.
Why we do it every time?
Probably the last time, because I don't think we are doing negotiating as an episode again.
Hey, who knows? Part 2, part 3, who knows? But the reason why we do this also is again because language is not easy. We keep saying that
Yeah.
language is being actively fucked with. That's
Yeah.
why we go back to see the root words. Anyways,
Right. Negotiate. Why, Bogus?
what?
Negotiate.
Huh.
Negotiation, why?
Why is it not easy?
Yeah.
Is what Brute is trying to say. Why is it not easy? Like, let's look at the "it's not easy" template itself, Brute. The world famous
Yeah.
"it's not easy" template.
Absolutely.
What do we start with?
Context.
That is it.
Yep.
Why is
Yep.
negotiation not easy is because people do such a piss poor job of setting up the context.
Dude, there's so much synchronicity between the template and the topic today.
Exactly.
I
The
think
word itself means not easy.
we just have to explain the template and the topic is covered.
And how do I mean this? So for our listeners, what you need to understand is additional layer of context. When I talk about negotiation, I'm coming from a project management kind of a perspective where your team has a goal that you want to achieve, but you can't do it by yourself. You need to knock the doors of other teams and you need to invite their participation. You need to convince them to work with you towards a common goal. So that is where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And
Brute's context is
I'll tell you.
slightly different.
yeah, basically, I come from the context of I know it all. And Bogus is this dumbass guy who just have a one-dimensional approach to anything. Whereas, I cover it all, guys. You know it. You've heard enough episodes to realize the knowledge that I have. And I want you guys to learn more from me. That's why I give out this wisdom, pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've always told this
one
to
of the
Bogus.
things that's very important for negotiation is transparency.
Yes.
So,
and
Brute, if you can cut the crap,
I am a clean mirror.
give your context, like how from where.
I
which
am
angle you're
giving my
talking. Yeah.
context. And Bogus, I just want to reiterate this. You have not scratched the surface
God.
of the worth that I carry.
Oh my God. I've been listening to this line for 6 years now.
Yeah, because you still don't know how to scratch
Imagine
the surface
that. I ain't scratching
the
anywhere,
worth.
anything near you, bruh.
Of my worth.
Okay, but
My
what
context is more with respect to sales because been there, done that.
Unlike my example where I have to reach out to other people and get their participation to work on a common goal, etc.
Yeah.
Your approach is completely different.
Yeah, it is basically, making people buy the product or service that I have to offer.
Yeah, someone who has no idea who you are
Yeah.
or what your company is.
Absolute stranger.
All of a sudden you set up a meeting, you show up and you have, how many meetings would you say on average you have to close?
It depends. That's not the point. But the thing that really matters is the whole art of negotiation in sales. Unlike common knowledge, doesn't come when you are throwing the commercials or the numbers. It starts from the point where I say, I need 1 hour of your time, right? And they're like, you don't have my 1 hour. So imagine it's just like anybody, knocking your door. I don't know if people experience this now, but back in the day they used to sell this encyclopedia
door-to-door
books,
salesmen,
door-to-door sales,
Yeah.
who were basically MBA grads in their final year or whatever.
Right.
And how they would come up and they would negotiate, like, can I have 10 minutes? Would you want to listen about this? So they keep throwing these different, propositions
Yeah.
for them to like capture some part of your attention. So it starts from way beginning than what the common knowledge is. And the funny thing that I've observed when we were prepping for this episode is, irrespective of two completely different contexts from where we are coming at negotiation,
Yeah.
the laws of or the dynamics of negotiation
Yeah.
remain the same.
The rules are the same.
The rules are the same,
Yeah.
right? Which again, kind of in a different way, nullifies, doesn't matter where you are, in what context you are, or how
Yes.
you approach it. The laws of negotiation still remain the same.
That's the key takeaway.
Yeah, which we are giving upfront.
Yeah. By upfront, we mean 45 minutes in. Subscribe and share. But coming back to that context point,
Yeah.
what makes negotiation not easy is, bro, I've seen in my experience
Mm-hmm.
where I've tried to groom people and mentor people also.
Unfortunate for them.
What I've observed is when they try to approach another stakeholder, another partner, to gain their interest or gain their participation or involvement, the very first meeting, there's a very poor job of context setting, because immediately out of the gate, this person A, who is the negotiator,
Yeah.
he's coming out with language and communication that just tells the other party what they want and what they need out of it.
Yeah.
The negotiator, what he wants out of it. And that's it. It's very transactional, the way that they talk.
Yeah.
There is no context setting that, this is the bigger goal
Right.
that I'm working towards. Why is this goal so worthwhile?
Right.
My time. And why is this goal such a huge opportunity for anyone who works with me?
Yeah.
Sort of sweeten the pot a little bit for people. Nothing of that is being done.
Yeah.
It's just get a meeting. Hey, how are you doing? The weather is nice. Yeah, weather is great. Awesome. Now, I need something. My team is doing this project. Probably we'll need like these many hours on a weekly basis from you. So it's that transactional.
Correct.
Why would the other party be even interested if this is how you enter the room?
Yeah. Even before that, Bogus, I want to take like a couple of steps back. And we kind of established that negotiation is not a one event thing.
Yeah.
Right? Keeps recurring.
Yeah.
And it's just the magnitude of negotiation you keep doing that changes.
Yeah.
Right? So higher things at stake, the harder you negotiate.
Yes.
Right? So what I have understood of negotiation is, though it looks like it's one event thing, even before context setting, it's a lot about storytelling.
Yeah.
It might come across very absurd when you hear this, that how is storytelling involved in negotiation?
Right.
But for me, how I connect that is the saying that I've heard, and it's a fantastic saying. It took a lot of time for me to understand it. The best negotiation is the one where you don't have to negotiate.
Right.
Which is, you've told the story so well that the person is like, I get it. I see what you're trying to bring onto the table. I like it. Let's go ahead.
Yeah.
So there is no negotiation there, right? But for that to do, you need to like really set up a strong base where you kind of bring both the parties on the same page, like all the 9 yards.
Yeah.
So storytelling is where it starts. You need to go into a negotiation or any project or any sale or whatever that is that you are pursuing with an anticipation that there will be places where I have to negotiate my way out.
Yes.
So for that, your base has, like the story that you told about the Tibet story, the base was the broken box.
Yeah.
Right? That is what you basically are fighting for. That yes, it is a made up thing. It's they're conning me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you have to negotiate your way out in multiple ways. Language barrier,
Yes.
people's support, the police guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Your story that you say will become the base of values that the other party will be referencing to. So that whenever there is a negotiation that comes up, you both have the same thing to refer to.
Yes.
You can't have two different parallel stories to refer to.
Right.
That is when the negotiation will become a bargain.
Exactly.
Another clear distinction that I want to put out: bargaining is not negotiation. Negotiation is an art form altogether. Bargaining is, like you mentioned, it's very transactional. Give me 5 resources, I can only give you 3.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay, give me 3, but give me 2 floating resources.
Can I
this
give
is bargaining.
an example for this point that you made?
No, don't. You bore the shit out of me.
The example is,
I said don't.
Yeah, but I'm still going to go ahead.
This is arrogance. By the way, guys, arrogance is not easy. Future episode of
Future
ThyGap.
episode for sure.
Yeah.
The very quick example is the difference between bargaining and negotiation. So in my example that I said, there are two teams within an organization
Yeah.
that are getting together for a meeting for the first time to talk about a project that probably like one team wants the other team to join, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I see in line with this transactional approach that people seem to have is that it's bad enough where the context is not set. And that context situation is a great ground for storytelling, like you said. Then when they start talking about, their boundaries, like what are the rules of engagement and all that, they start talking along the lines of internal team requirements, internal metrics.
Yeah.
So I start talking about my team's metrics are this, these are the goals I have to hit in my team. Immediately that makes the other person talk about their team and their internal thing.
Right.
Instead, if you're a good negotiator, you would realize that both these teams belong to one common organization.
Correct.
What unifying culture do we have? What organizational goals, are there that are common for both my team and his team?
Yeah.
If you're a good negotiator, you start talking on those points.
Correct.
Because once you start talking on the unifying metrics, then they cannot push back as hard. Because you'll again be able to say, hey, but this is our organizational goal.
They look counterproductive.
They look counterproductive. Immediately, they look like they're being cheap and they're being petty by talking about their team's requirement. When here you are talking about a larger goal
Correct.
of the organization. So this is another negotiation tactic.
Yeah. Like how you said unified metrics, right?
Yeah.
What we like in sales, the sales breed, if you have to say, what we talk about is haters get closer than lovers.
Yeah.
Like if you hate the same thing,
Right.
you tend to develop a stronger bond than you both loving the same thing.
Yeah.
So similarly in sales, what you do is when you are sitting with another client, you represent one company and obviously the client is from another company. And you're pitching this product and all. Much before that, the first important part of the whole storytelling or context setting is identifying the common problem.
Yes.
Where you both hate equally.
Yes.
Because once if the person agrees that yes, this is a problem that I don't like, yes, these are pain points, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
If we both agree that yes, this is the same thing that we both are trying to solve, then fundamentally you are no more two different parties. You are one team trying to solve it together.
Yes.
What happens in this process, though it doesn't reflect immediately, is it automatically changes the perception of how they look at you.
Exactly.
From an outsider to someone who's their peer or colleague, right? Or a collaborator.
Yeah.
To be more specific. Once you see it as a collaborator, your goal is the same. Your North Star is the same.
Yeah.
So eventually, they will also look at your well-being.
Yes.
I'll tell you in my story, whenever I was able to establish that common goal of solving the same problem, in the course of the conversation or the sales cycle in the language, right, of sales, they start asking you questions like, so how badly do you need the deal?
Right.
What will make you look good in your company? At what rate or what price is a good price?
Yeah.
What is the biggest deal you closed?
Right.
Are we in that range?
Right.
How much business will help you? And these are very transactional questions.
Yes.
But the fact that these guys are being transparent with you, it gives me confidence that yes, you know what? I have established the fact that I'm not trying to con you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pull off a fast one on you.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely sitting here at the time of your need to help you.
Yeah.
And that is what is the whole concept of the best negotiation is there is no negotiation. Right? Which is why, again, the whole storytelling piece and like you said, unified goal or unified metrics. All this is under the bigger umbrella of negotiation itself. You should not differentiate it. Granularly, yes, you can look at it as different pieces of art. Like how do you make a unified goal? How do you set up a context?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. How do you build relationship? This is all the nonsense that people always talk. Build relationships, improve the rapport that you have, win the trust.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking talks about how you do it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's where ThyGap comes in.
ThyGap, and we have to be a consultancy to like common people, like public.
There's a fine line between the art of negotiation and the art of war.
Yeah.
It's a very fine line.
Very fine line. It's called nuclear power. As long as you have nuclear power,
Right.
it is still a negotiation.
Yeah. But we mentioned storytelling multiple times.
Yeah.
So I don't want to miss the opportunity here to highlight the fact that storytelling in itself is a totally different skill.
Episode. Oh, sorry.
It's a totally different skill that needs developing.
Yeah.
And it pays huge dividends
Yeah.
for anyone who develops that skill. And for that, we've done an episode called Everyday Storytelling. It's one of our oldies and goldies. Check it out.
Cult episode.
Yeah. So coming back to negotiation. So we've talked about whatever we've talked about. I don't waste any more time.
Stop doing that.
So apart from that, a good negotiator becomes a unifier of sorts.
Yeah.
In the sense that even though you're coming from this side of the table and you're negotiating with people on the other side of the table, if you are a good negotiator, they start looking at you apart from just someone who's on the other side of the table.
Correct.
Because the more you speak in terms of we and our, common goals, common problems. Let's put all of our common problems on the table. This is how we are going to benefit you. So the most basic elements of being a good negotiator, I feel, is you need to have humility and empathy. Without these two, you're never going to be successful as much as you can as a negotiator, because empathy is what enables you to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
So even before you approach a stakeholder, you already should be thinking, okay, what are their pain points? What are they going to want? What kind of value can I propose to them that they will be excited by? And what kind of problems can I anticipate, that they would point out in my team or in my process? So a good negotiator always tries to put themselves in shoes of others. And this is what good salespeople also have to do.
Can I speak about sales? You just talk about your side of the
Exactly. So the context setting, the storytelling helps the common, unified metrics, unified goals, helps the people on the other side to feel that I'm not competing here. This is not a competition.
Yeah.
I don't have to sharpen my blades now because I don't have to think about a comeback for this.
Rebuttal is the word that
Rebuttal.
corporates use.
Yeah. I don't
What
have
is
to
your
think of that.
rebuttal to this obstacle or objection handling?
Exactly. So they are now relaxed. They are no longer in a defensive position. So they are more receptive to what you're saying.
More than defensive, I say cautious.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Because see,
Potato
nobody likes to be... See, one of the biggest problems sales guys face is the tag sales guy
that's it.
comes with an underlying threat that he's going to fool me.
Yeah.
So most of the people who are being sold to are always cautious about not becoming a fool, right? Because they have to justify this call, whatever they buy. So again, if you think of it, back in the day when you would go to like a clothing store, the guy talks you into buying 2-3 things more than what you intended to buy in the first place.
Yeah.
And you're really happy that you bought them. That's the mark of a good sales guy, that he makes you happy with what you purchased.
Right.
What you said was humility and empathy.
Yeah.
From a sales perspective, right? What we call is a win-win situation. Okay. We say like keep creating win-win situations where the guy is saying that the party that you're selling to, they are feeling that, okay, you know what? It's not just, me selling the deal, but I also get something in return.
Exactly.
Right. So win-win situation.
Right.
I always for the longest time felt that is the wrong way of creating such situations.
Okay.
It has to be, I was always a big fan of collaboration.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would want people to look at me as a guy who's collaborating with my organization than a sales guy who's creating win-win situations.
Right.
Because that win-win situation is very easily dissipated at the first drop of trouble.
Right.
Because in the course of you trying to create win-win situations, there is always that slight adjustment you make with expectations. And again, expectation setting is a huge part of negotiation. You don't want to overcommit and underperform. You rather want to undercommit and overperform. Right? So in the pursuit of creating that win-win situation, there are oftentimes I've seen a lot of sales guys who overcommit like shit. Like, we do this for you. Yeah, we can do that for you.
Yeah.
Etc. Etc. So theoretically, on paper, you are giving a lot of values for him. They're like, I'm getting a lot for this price. Great. But what I see, which is more long lasting, and I always believe that you ideally would want to negotiate only once. Right?
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it should not be like I said, it should not be a negotiation done, right?
Again and again.
Again and again, which means you are delivering to the expectations that you've set.
Yeah.
For that, if I establish that I am a collaborator with you, I am not a third party. At any given point, you feel things are getting tough. I'm not running away. I'm not going to abscond. and I'm going to prove it to you.
Yeah.
Right? And there are different ways of doing it. How to prove that you are a collaborator and a person to stay there, blah, blah, blah. That for me, you represent it as, you term it as humility and empathy.
Yeah.
That for me is intent.
Right.
You know, if I am able to show the intent of really, really helping you out, then it's a whole different ballgame. The conversation tone changes, the professionality of the conversation changes, the language changes in which, like I said, when I was able to establish this particular aspect, that dude, I'm in it as much as you are in it. I'm not going to just give it to you and run away.
Right.
The language changed. When I say the language changed, the kind of questions they were asking me is, like I said, like, how much are you off from your quarters number? When do you want to close it? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So this is how I look at it from a sales perspective.
Yeah. From my perspective, humility translates, for a negotiator. Humility translates to, in real life terms, it translates to making the other person feel that you both are on level ground.
Yeah.
You're not coming from some kind of superiority, complex. Neither are you coming from an inferiority complex. And how do I mean that? Like when you approach them, don't be too beggy pleady.
Yeah.
That puts off people.
Yeah.
Don't make him feel like he has to do you a favor. That's done. If you do that, your deal is done.
Yeah, which is why I use the word collaborate.
Exactly. So the humility is to make them feel like we are on common ground, you and me are in this together.
Correct.
You and me have common problems that we can commit to try and solve together to reach this overall goal, umbrella goal,
right,
which will benefit me and it will benefit you.
Correct.
So your time is not going to be wasted.
And that connects to the previous one where you've already established that this is the North Star for both of us.
Exactly. So you talk about organizational common goals.
Correct.
You do not negotiate on your own internal team's goals.
Right.
Empathy translates, as a negotiator for me, empathy translates into your research. Like, who am I meeting? What kind of a person they are?
The homework you do.
Like what problems they might have that I can talk about.
Right.
So when you come to the meeting, you set up a great context. You use storytelling to set up the context.
Right.
Explain why.
Yeah.
Because this is a study they did in Harvard, bro, which is they try to study what exactly motivates people in the workplace.
What I don't understand about Harvard is, do people go there to study or people in Harvard are already studying? Like, what is it that's happening in Harvard? Why are they releasing these studies all the time?
So one of these studies was that they wanted to figure out what exactly motivates people more in the workplace. So they did a sample study where they offered people monetary increments, etc.,
Yeah.
versus they did something else. They found the other method was working.
Right.
What was that other method? No monetary increments,
Right.
nothing. They were just explaining to people why they do what they do
Right.
and what value that is creating.
Right.
That's it.
Exactly.
Just telling people why they are doing what they're doing
Yeah.
and what is the significance of it. They were able to track a spike in motivational levels of the workplace. So that is what transparency does.
Right.
And that is why in negotiation also transparency is a huge important currency, which is in corporate jargon nowadays, to be posh, they use the word radical candor.
Never came across it.
Which is one way of saying brutally honest.
See, the luxury of a sales guy is we don't have to sit in office or with HR sessions to listen to all this.
Right.
Half of the time we're in the market, so we don't give a fuck about what's happening in the office.
Yeah.
I wanted to, when you said empathy and when you're explaining about the homework and all, the way people use it in sales, the trick that they use, again, to reduce the impact of negotiation or not to make negotiation longer. When we research the kind of people who we select, so we have different personas that we create within each client, right? There's an influencer, there's a champion, blah, blah, blah. We select a guy who we empower, right? A sales guy's trick, it's a hack rather. What you say as empathy to, understand and kind of be in their shoes.
Yeah.
It's a little different in sales where we say like, dude, you are the guy who can do this.
Right.
You have the power to make that change. And I am here to do all the dirty work for you. Right? So that is how it changes. Like when you speak to someone, and generally you're speaking to guys in the high bracket, right? In the C suits or speak about enterprise sales or SaaS sales and all.
Yeah.
You speak to this high cadre guys, extremely competent guys, generally 2 or 3 times more experienced than you, for sure have a lot more competence in running a show than you. Statistically, you should never be able to sell to these guys, or only a CEO should be able to sell to a CEO.
Right.
But what happens here is it's a slight provocation of responsibility.
Yeah.
It's kind of reinvigorating
Yeah.
that, boss, you are responsible for these 500 people in your org. Don't you want their life to become better? Isn't that a part of your KRA as a CEO
Right.
or whatever, senior folk? If yes, let me do the dirty work for you. Let me make you look good. Let all these 500 people praise you for what you have done for them. Again, it depends on product to product, service to service, whatever.
Yeah.
So that is how we use the background of knowing a person. Like, how do we empower them at a
Okay.
personal level? So there is something called personal selling, then there's product selling, and the whole gamut of things.
Right.
Once again, this is a part of the whole, art of war or art of negotiation, which is know who you're talking to
Yes.
so that you know exactly how you place yourself.
Yeah.
And this is a point I'll come back to later. But this is a really important, and this is where I feel a lot of people fail.
And what else is not easy about negotiation? I think a good negotiator or someone who wants to be a great negotiator must understand what makes it not easy is the currency. As a negotiator, your word is your bond.
Yeah.
And in your personal life, if you're used to throwing your word around without any value, then you're going to have a tough time. Because when you're negotiating, you have to be very careful about what you say and what you commit to.
Yeah.
And if you commit to something, you have to come good with that. Because negotiation is not a one-time thing like we said earlier. It is a process.
Yeah. It's not a one event incident happening.
Exactly. And another thing that you had mentioned earlier was that you don't have to negotiate again and again and again.
Yeah.
Why will that situation ever come for a negotiator where they have to negotiate again and again and again? It's because they have to rebuild trust again and again. They have to work to rebuild that trust.
The real problem is they're constantly falling short.
Exactly. Whereas a skilled negotiator would be very careful about what they're committing to.
Yeah.
And like you said, undercommit, over-deliver, and whatever terms and conditions you've laid out, whatever commitments you've made.
Yeah.
Because it can't just be like you expect only them to come up with, commitments. You have to show something from your side also.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they are not going to walk away with the feeling that it's a collaboration.
Right. Exactly.
They'll think it's delegation.
Yeah.
No one likes that.
Correct.
So when you commit, you also show them within the time frame you promised that you're coming good with your commitment. Because that close looping is what builds that trust. And if you can build that trust well in the foundational stage, it's going to save you pain and effort at least for the next 4 or 5 situations where you might have had to negotiate again and again if that trust was not built well.
True. Absolutely. And for all the people who have the issue of throwing their word around and not sticking to it, not adding value to what they're speaking, become podcasters.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing, guys. Like, just keep throwing your words around. Doesn't matter.
You're in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, if you're doing it at home for no return or whatever,
Yeah.
you're doing the wrong thing. Just do a podcast. Keep throwing words around. The easiest way,
Yeah.
safest.
So
are there any more points, Bogus, that you have? Because there's one like nail on the head point for negotiation for me.
I have one more.
Okay, tell it.
So
You have 42 seconds. Finish the point.
one of the subtlest things in the art of negotiation, and this requires a lot of restraint and self-control.
Discipline, you mean?
You can say that also. As a negotiator, you can take a leaf out of the Godfather, of the book, of the character Don Corleone.
Don Corleone. Is it about keeping cotton in the mouth all the time?
No. That's Marlon Brando. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
Corleone.
Okay,
Yeah.
not the character.
Not the character.
Okay.
So it is very possible when you enter negotiation that the other person could be confrontational, they could be defensive, they could be cautious, like you said.
Yeah.
And your job as a negotiator is to first and foremost allay those fears. Like,
Use simple English, Bogus. Alley.
I'm just using what word comes to my mind.
Stop doing that.
Give me an
Be a better
alternative.
speaker.
Give me an alternative.
You have to negate.
Negate those fears, like calm them down.
Yeah.
And
See, right there. You had a better word. Calm them down.
But the most important thing is, in the initial stage, you have to anticipate that they will be, their guard will be up. So when you anticipate that, you can't always expect other people to be good negotiators also.
Yeah.
Right? When you're trying to be a negotiator, walk into a room expecting they probably are not going to try. And so what happens? Very quickly, the conversation goes to ego. You might have wanted to start talking about process, about something work-related, some topic. Very quickly, it starts going to personal kind of jibe.
You're fat.
Jabs or whatever.
You're balding.
As a negotiator, it's very important for you to be very stubborn. with not giving the point away. So if you're there to talk about a particular topic, if those people get excited or they get agitated or whatever, they're indirectly, passive aggressively, throwing insults at you, let it just wash off like, water off a duck's back. This is what they talked about in The Godfather, which is, even though this man was extremely powerful, Don Corleone, when he used to have a sit down with the other mafia bosses, whenever they used to insult him, he used to not react.
Yeah.
He used to always bring it back to the point.
Yeah.
Because all the insult is taking somewhere else. If he started insulting them back, now it's no longer about the point, it's about the fight now.
Yeah.
Right? So, and there you lose as a negotiator, because as a negotiator, you have a goal.
Right.
So you have to be very aware and alert about your goal. So whenever the conversation is deviating, you need to bring it back like a good traffic police guy. And also, whenever you find that people are no longer discussing a point, but they're discussing a person, then you have to bring it back to the point as a negotiator. What I mean by that is, if someone says something ridiculous, then on the other side, if someone reacts to how ridiculous they are, then they are reacting to the person. They're not reacting to the merit of their point anymore. So as a negotiator, you have to take the charge and you have to bring it back to the point. Get them to avoid talking about people, instead talk about points, and get them to understand that nothing is going to faze you. No matter how excited or agitated the conversation gets, they need to feel that, they need to walk away with the feeling that this person is unfazed. They have one goal and they believe in that goal. Because that sense of belief also starts to rub off on people.
Conviction. They
that
say
conviction.
More conviction. Yeah. There are two things, and I want to re-emphasize this. There is always this mystery of how power dynamics plays in a negotiation. And like I said, if that was really true, no sales guy with 5-10 years of experience can ever sell to a CEO who's having 20-30 years of experience.
Right.
And the power dynamics is right there. If you can establish the storyline, if you can establish the context, then you have the power to bring back the people who deviate from that storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they say like, hey, you know what, I've heard a lot from you, I've heard a lot about people like you, blah, blah, blah. You can always go back. But we did agree upon that this is what we are trying to solve.
Yes.
So that is one. The other point, and rather it's like a question to you, Bogus, is whenever I come up with a rebuttal to a dumbass point that you say, why do you act as if you've never heard me saying it and just go on with your monologue? It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer or at least act like you're thinking.
Okay.
But this is food for thought for you.
No.
After the recording, while you're driving lonely back to your home and then sleep alone at your home and then get up in the morning alone, this is something for you to think about. Otherwise, empty brain.
Water off a duck's back.
The third point that I wanted to tell is I said 42 seconds, Bogus.
Right.
Numbers don't seem to be your forte.
Nope.
Nor the time.
We're in a long form podcast, but what's 42 seconds?
It is what makes or breaks our podcast. 42 seconds is a lot of time for people to jump out of our episode.
One final point from me.
Okay.
If you have,
I have the final point. I just have the one umbrella point.
Okay. So my last point of why negotiation is not easy. And this is really not easy. As a good negotiator or someone who wants to be a good negotiator, you have to make peace with the fact that you have to drive always. You have to be in the driver's seat. You can't be passive and sit behind and think, okay, I'll just let this conversation go around and I'll be a good negotiator when it comes to my, chance to
When
talk.
they ask me.
No.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good negotiator, you are like a traffic cop and you are taking charge, taking the initiative from the word go, and you are conducting the proceedings. And if you do it well, even the opposing side, no matter how conflicting your goals are, even the opposing side will kind of concede some ground to you because everyone subconsciously understands that things are better with some direction on some level. Nobody likes a fish market.
Yeah.
So if you can show to them that you are efficiently being a great negotiator by considering their viewpoint and also humbly explaining your viewpoint to them and trying to show them how yours and their goals meet in a unifying way, then they will also take a back seat and allow you to take that charge because everyone wants someone else to lead because it's easy to sit in the back seats.
Yeah.
So the unfortunate reality of being a good negotiator, first and foremost, is you have to take charge, you have to take initiative, and you have to drive things around.
Great speech, Bogus.
On to your point, bro.
Absolutely unnecessary. My final umbrella point, and this is beyond the context that we set or the perspectives that we are speaking from, whether it's like
Then I can cut it out. It's not
getting
relevant here.
internal, no, not again, listen carefully. Bogus, listening is
It is
something
not
that we need to
within
do.
our context,
Listening,
you said.
we need to do listening. It's not easy.
Of course, another topic.
Yeah,
Add it to the list.
it is beyond the perspectives that we are speaking from. This point, I feel, is colloquial in nature.
Okay.
So first of all, negotiation is a piece of conversation that a lot of people are happier avoiding
Yes.
rather than facing it.
Because
being in that
confrontation, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Check it
Last episode, check it out, guys. Like and share, fucking bloody spread it around like a pandemic.
Yes.
So therefore, off the bat, negotiation is not easy. Now I'll tell you why people, I feel, avoid this whole negotiation piece itself. And the umbrella point is because people, majority of the people, do not know their own worth that they bring onto the table. You know,
Okay.
when you are put in a position at where your personality or when your identity is at stake, you are at loss of words. Every time, like I mentioned, from a sales thing, if I'm not convinced of a product, I don't know how strongly I can sell. Right? And it's kind of a similar principle. When you get into a negotiation, and that negotiation can be as simple as you asking permission from your parents to go out for a night, you asking a friend to come and pick you up. That negotiation can be as simple as anything that you do on a day-to-day basis, right? The reason a lot of people fail or avoid or jump out of it very quickly is there is no clear understanding of what is it that I am able to bring to the table that others see a worth in. That indecisiveness makes you often oblige or give in to others people's demands or requests than you setting your own terms of how things happen.
Right.
This is the biggest reason, according to me, why negotiation is not easy. It is so difficult that people are comfortable to avoid it altogether
Yeah.
rather than stand the ground and go through the whole ordeal.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you other things, and I'm sure a lot of people might relate to this or resonate with it. It especially happens when you are struggling to make a mark. And then all these naysayers and relatives or so-called neighbors and all, uncles and aunts, come and start drilling at you. And you rather standing there and explaining value of the pursuit that you're having, you rather avoid the whole function.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard or you've observed yourself doing, I wouldn't want to come to that function because, people are going to ask me this. Or
I don't
want
go to any of those.
Yeah, that's because you're a loner. I've established this already.
Of course.
But have you not seen people do that? Saying that,
Yeah.
And what people, it's kind of a confrontation nevertheless, right? But at the same time, this is what the storytelling, what I was saying, is what goes into that whole debate where you are trying to convince and, you're trying to sell the value that you have.
Yeah.
Your dream or your understanding of whatever, the value that you see, you are trying to convince the other person to buy that value from you. Right? And that's negotiation.
Yeah.
According to me, that is negotiation because they are going to shut you down. They are going to pin you down. They're going to come down with all bloody artillery that they have with their wisdom, their skewed understanding of what you do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you are going to sell that, right? You're going to go back and forth with that idea.
Yeah.
If you're not sure about what your story is and what this thing is, you will never able to succeed in a conversation which is about negotiating of acceptance, negotiating your credibility, negotiating all these aspects where people are saying like, you're not worth so much. And you're like, yeah, I am worth so much. You're not selling there. There is worth already in place.
Right.
In the conversation, you are negotiating of the magnitude of worth you have, which is again like why it is always in the air. These conversations are in the air and they sound like argumentative or, heated up or blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But if you observe these conversations closely, you are not seeing any value being spoken of from both the parties. Right?
Yeah.
Which is why I feel always do the prep.
Yeah.
Do that homework of knowing what you are getting to the table and not worrying about what the other person is going to get to the table. Because if it coincides that both of you are going to get the same thing, your collaboration can be that much more stronger. If it is different in nature, your collaboration would be that much more innovative. That is how win-win situations are created.
Right.
When you really know what you're getting to the table, only then is when you will know what is going to come out of that collaboration. And my belief, subjectively my belief, any form of collaboration, when done with the right attitude and the right understanding, always gives a positive output.
Yeah.
The nature of the output might vary, but it will give a positive output.
Yeah.
So that is my final point of why it's not easy. That is, know your worth of what you're going to bring onto the table. And then you see for sure and build a story around it, right? Then you will see, you will really achieve the best form of negotiation is not to negotiate anything.
Right. As a negotiator, we have to do our best to try and find some common ground
Yeah.
with something in common with whoever we are negotiating.
Yeah.
I don't care how petty we have to get. Like, oh, we both have curly hair. That's good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough.
We both are the same gender. That's good enough. We're both from the same part of the country. That's good enough. We're
Make
both
it
part of the global south. Like we're below the equator.
Yeah.
That's good enough. Whatever you can find, basically.
Absolutely.
Find that common point, and from there you build
Which
that
is-
sort of a collaborative.
Which is why women are not great negotiators, because they can never find a common point with others. It's very difficult because this whole logic of, oh, every woman is unique, nonsense. But anyways, we are digressing it into a geopolitical identity crisis kind of a topic, which we don't want to do right now. We're not that powerful yet to influence. So bogus, with that, I believe, is why we believe that negotiation is not negotiate.
Is not negotiate. It's not
Not
easy.
at all. Not at all negotiate. So what do you think is not easy about negotiation? Do you agree with what we say? Do you disagree with what we say? Or do you have your own points? Above all, what was the weirdest place that you had to negotiate your way out?
Yeah.
If you can share those really interesting reads for us when we sit on the pot early morning or late night, whenever we do that.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious to read those.
And for you to do that, you really need to know where you can send the message. And once again, for your own amnesia, we have the treatment. Bogus, the award-winning socials of ThyGap, Instagram,
@_ThyGap,
Twitter and Vero,
@ThyGap,
and email.
mindthygap@gmail.com.
So many ways for you to share stories to us. And whatever you share, we promise you it's of top confidentiality. We don't reveal it to anybody
Yep.
unless we are being paid.
Of course.
So with that, we come to the conclusion of the latest episode, the last episode. It's not easy. Negotiation.
It's not easy.
And like we always say, ThyGap Podcast. Subscribe.
And share. It's not a negotiation.
It's not, it's a demand.